wasting somebody's slot, somebody who could have done something good. Just give us 2 seconds, please. Yes, set your 10-year plan. And that helps you work towards goals. So many of us are very unrealistic, and the moment we get unrealistic, we get frustrated. Because life is not always what we want it to be. Remember, I told you there are 100 people dropping off CVs at DSU every day, 100 people. And then there are others who are sitting at the reception, those that have been to DSU. We have 3 receptions. So some way downstairs, others wait at the 2nd level, others at the 3rd level. Just sitting and watching TV the whole day, waiting to meet Rachel. Even when they're not an appointment, even when they do not know who Rachel is or what Rachel looks like, but they will sit and hope that someone else will call Rachel and they will know that that's Rachel. And at times it pays off, because I've met somebody who's waited for weeks, finally I met them, gave them a chance to interview, and unfortunately they didn't do the right things in the interview. And Joseph will be talking about the things to do during interviews and after interviews. Some of us get jobs and we act so knowledgeable. We act more knowledgeable than the trainers. We need to know that we're all learning. When you get a job, learn, listen, learn and learn on a daily basis. Do not act too knowledgeable. When your trainer is trying to teach you something and you shut them down and say, I already know that. And you ask, how do you know it? I had someone talk about it. So you don't even have the experience, but you're shutting up someone who has the experience and is trying to teach you. Some of us take our employers for granted. I tell you, I've already mentioned about people that cry and literally use all offices in Uganda to call you just to get an interview. And even when you refuse, and you keep telling people, because we're very professional at DSCU and we discourage CVs that come in from all directions. So we will ask you to put your CV at the reception. It will be sorted with the rest through the normal process. But even when someone is given a chance after trying all avenues, coming to the interview, get a job, begin taking the employer for granted. And we'll talk about what it is to take your employer for granted. When you don't care, when you don't deliver all the nice things you promised during the interviews, and when you finally throw your coat over your chair and say, finally, I've got my job and I don't need to worry anymore. You get into a comfort zone. We get in, we begin to work well for the first month, 2nd month, 3rd month, you're just going down the curve. But remember, you're in your first 6 months, you're on probation, you're not yet a permanent employee. Some of us join cliques. We all know what cliques are. We've all been to university or some place of learning. And there are cliques, there are movements. Some of us will begin forming religious rebellions at work or political associations at work. When you get into a job, you need to know it's a professional environment. Unless you go to work for a political party. If you go to work for NRM or FBC or whatever party you subscribe to, that's something different. But when you come into a bar, it's not a religious bar unless it's a religious bar. If it's DFCU, it's not based on political grounds, it's not based on religion, it's not based on tribe. But some of us get in and begin to form associations. Then when there are riots in town, you're on top of your desk writing with the people outside. Instead of concentrating on the core job that has brought you in. You're on your probation, you're rioting with somebody who's been there for 5 years, forgetting that this person has got a permanent job, and they too could be dismissed, but you are in a worse off position. Because when it's the quick dismissals that I need to do immediately, I'll start off with your name because it's at the bottom of the list in terms of being employed. You begin taking part in office gossip. We all know all offices. Everybody loves to gossip. However senior, however junior, at university, I don't know if we have a pastor here or a priest. Maybe God has the answer to why people love gossiping. But I guess it's part of life. But do you take part in office gossip? Do you take part in office politics? You hear people talking about somebody, you're new, day 2 in the dining cafeteria, immediately you jump onto the bandwagon and say, I actually agree, I don't think that's a good person. You don't even know the person. But because you're trying to gain favor with a certain group of people, you begin to join and talk about starting part in office gossip and office politics. We'll be talking about professionalism during the course of the presentation. This slide is really about making a first impression. Sorry, it's been cut off. But one of the things that I've already talked about is delivery. I think that's a bit clear. You need to deliver. When you get into your job, deliver. You need to push and deliver. It's either doing it or getting out. There's no two-way when it comes to performance and delivery. This is dress code. Apologies, I use different colors. You need to dress right. I keep talking about this. I've not given people jobs because of the way they're dressed. And this is the reality. Joseph will talk about dress code, I'm sure, in this presentation. When you go for an interview, how do you dress? When you come back once you're given a job and you start working, how are you dressed? I hadn't been to my parents in so many years, but finally I did. And I was driving down in front of the main hall, and I was honestly shocked when I saw some of the people who were going for lectures. Because the clothes were hardly, they were so skimpy, some people were in very hot pants, and you might look smart, yes, and it might be a trend at the university, but what if you met your potential employer? What if I was scouting out for people and I stopped a few people? And you need to have this at the back of your mind in terms of dress code. Dress code is everything when you get a job. How do you dress? How do you look? Is your shirt torn? Are you wearing the same shirt on Monday, Tuesday, wash it in the evening, you put it up Wednesday, same shirt? Yes, I'm sure there are so many cheap shirts now in town. There are men who carry shirts at 3,000, 2,000, then downtown. Then those that have some money can go to the shops. But there are so many options now. So why would you want to disadvantage yourself against another person? Remember, you're two people that have joined. One is smart. You don't have to dress expensive or dress rich to be smart. You can get your few clothes, 2 dresses and 2 tops and 2 trousers, as long as you're professional and smart over time. You need to know your company's dress code. Don't come in a busuti and say, I'm a Uganda, my culture is bad, and my mother said I always have to wear a busuti. Learn your company's dress code. If they clearly state you're not allowed to wear traditional wear, don't try to be rebellious and say it's against my beliefs, my religious affiliation, I need to wear my, what is it called? Who's Muslim here? My Sharia, yes. You need to ask, go to your HR manager and say, can I wear my Sharia on Friday, or is it against the company regulations? If it's not, wear it. But you need to know you're serving different customers. You could be serving a customer who doesn't even want to see anybody close to your religion. So are you going to lose your job because of that particular customer? It could be your biggest depositor in a bank's case. So when taking on a job, you need to know what to ask about the dress code. Body language, I hope you can read that. You need to be very cautious about your body language. This is going to come up, I know, during your interviews as well, in the afternoon when Joseph is talking to you. But body language is everything. I usually walk around the bank just to see the way people stand, the way they sit. Have you met people that sit and are literally slouching? Do we all know what it is to slouch? You're talking to somebody in an interview and they begin by slouching, just a bit, slouch further, but at the end of the interview they are literally lying back. And their head is, as though they were in their living room. Body language is everything. Some of us talk and our hands are crossed. There's so many things that you shouldn't be doing. When someone is making a presentation and you cross your hands, it's telling the person, I do not want to listen. I am listening, but I already know so much. So there's so much you can read about when it comes to body language. The way you sit, the way you cross your legs, the way you walk, the way you... There are people who walk and literally drag their feet. I've seen people who, ladies especially, I'm not being sexist here, but I'm a lady anyway. So there are ladies who walk and they're dragging their feet. They walk from this place to the other. We literally take them 10 minutes. That's all first impression. It's all body language. I'm not going to want to recruit somebody who is not fast, and speed is shown in many ways. Not by talking fast or walking fast, but the way you present yourself, the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you eat. I do not know if lunch is being provided, but when you're in the dining, how do you chew, there's so much that goes into body language. And I guess it's a topic that needs to be covered.